Hello, and thank you for joining Wisconsin Parkinson Association's educational video series. I'm Jeremy Otte, Director of Outreach and Education for Wisconsin Parkinson Association. WPA provides hope, community, support, and resources for people with Parkinson's disease and their loved ones. Today, we are talking with Michelle Jens, a physical therapy assistant with Greenfield Rehabilitation Agency. Michelle is going to discuss home modifications and keep your home safer for you and your loved ones. Welcome, Michelle. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you very much for having me here today.
No problem. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, more than what I've shared already?
Sure. I am an associate degree in physical therapy, and I've been practicing for over 20 years. My experience has primarily been in long-term care and in home health settings. I have a strong clinical background and continuing education certificates in fall prevention, as well as Parkinson's disease. My employer is Greenfield Rehab Agency, and we provide therapy services around the state of Wisconsin in outpatient clinics, pediatrics, home health settings, and in nursing homes. Home health has really been the primary area of my practice for the last 10 years. Some of the reasons I would say I really, truly love home health are because I can help people maintain their independence in their home where they really want to be. Because PT plays such an intricate role in safety, balance, and fall prevention, and because I can help people re-enter the community and start doing the things that they love again. Over the past year and a half, Greenfield Rehab has really supported my endeavors to help teach the community and start some outreach programs. I've become a healthy living with chronic pain leader, as well as a strong bodies leader. I've initiated wellness clinics at our local assisted living facilities that we serve. And I'm also nationally certified to teach benevolent touch massage. With the support of the Wisconsin Parkinson's Association, Greenfield Rehab Agency, and also the Kiel Community Center, I've been able to start a movement and music class in Kiel. Before starting my class, I went through online training as well as in-person training with an amazing group of dance instructors. They have their own classes in Wauwatosa, Whitefish Bay, and in Fond du Lac. And I would encourage anybody to take a look at the website, and as soon as classes resume, to take a chance and go to one of those classes. Some of those instructors were they actually went through the program with Mark Morris, the Parkinson's dance program. For me, the movement and music class in Kiel has been very, very rewarding. In our class, I like to incorporate both the movement and music component as well as balance, using some of my therapy background. We really have a wonderful group of people that attend that class regularly, and I miss them very, very much since the safer at home order has been put into place.
Absolutely. And I think one of the great things you talked about, Michelle, with movement and music as well as the dance class, similar to the video we're doing today, I know that dance class has put some online videos on that if people are interested in learning more, they can go to that. And then Mary Wood from our office has been doing Facebook Live movement music classes, so people can also see that. So once we do get back from out from under Safer at Home, they can at least see what the class looks like and hopefully join you once we're back up and running.
Absolutely.
So you touched on it a little bit, but you talked a little bit about home safety. Mm-hmm. You talked about falls, keeping people at home. Can you touch a little bit on why this is such an important issue for especially people with Parkinson's to consider?
Sure. Well, now more than ever with this COVID pandemic, home safety and fall prevention, I feel like are really, really important to discuss. It's essential that we keep people in their home versus encountering a fall that may result in a hospitalization, because that hospitalization might increase their risks of exposure to COVID. We all know that falls as we age become much more involved. You know, when we fall, we don't just get back up and carry on like we used to when we were younger. Falls can result in a fracture, a hospitalization with surgery, sometimes a nursing home stay or a rehab stint, and all those things prevent us from getting back home where we want to be. As we age, We definitely have changes in our posture, our gait, our strength, and our balance, and all those things can impact our fall risks. So as you know, likewise, Parkinson's, those symptoms can change or progress too. So our hope right now is that even though we're required to stay at home, that our folks stay active so that we can prevent a decline in some of the Parkinson symptoms. Clinically speaking, in PT, some of the things that we see when people do have a little bit of a setback or a decline may include postural changes, where they have increased flexion of the trunk, the hip, and the knees. And when that happens, their center of gravity is off, and that can affect their fall risks. Sometimes people shuffle their feet, and with shuffling, we don't clear our toes. That decrease in the toe clearance and decrease in the step height can also cause us to trip. We see festinating, and what that is, for those that maybe aren't aware, is just those faster and faster steps that get smaller and smaller until it can affect our safety. We sometimes see freezing steps. You know, that's especially in doorways, changes in flooring, or narrow spaces. We see people having changes in their proprioception or their ability to know where they are in space. Changes in vision. And we also see people have trouble with their motor planning skills. And when I talk about motor planning, what I mean by that is the mind-body connection that helps us conceive and plan out and then carry out a purposeful task in the right sequence. An example of that might be something as simple as moving from one chair, being able to get up, walk over, turning, backing up, and then reaching down to sit in another chair. So really, because of all these symptoms and the physical changes that we can have, this is why it's really extremely important right now that we do take a look at the home setup, some modifications that we can do, and our safety to decrease the risk in our falls.
Perfect. And I think it's a good segue then. You know, we just talked about COVID-19 pandemic, safer at home. We know people are in their homes. You've touched on some of the physical symptoms, but what are the things or common risk factors within homes that you see that people can maybe address sooner rather than later?
Sure. I think the easiest way for me to go through would be just to walk you through the home a bit. So looking at the different areas of the home, first, home entrances and exits. What I often see there are unstable or uneven steps, having uneven pavement for somebody that they have to go from their garage, you know, between the garage and where they park the car in their home, or maybe they're missing a supportive railing to get into the house. In the kitchen and living room areas, we often see changes in flooring types, flooring that's maybe lifted, narrow spaces for turning around, clutter and items on the floor. You know, and here when we talk about clutter, it might include things even like electrical cords, pet toys, or oxygen tubing. Low lighting, kitchen items that are out of reach. And then another big one would be chairs that have wheels on them, or chairs that are just simply too low to get up from. In the bathroom area, what we see is people oftentimes trying to use a towel bar to pull themselves up rather than a solid rail. We see no grab bars at all in the showers, having a very low toilet, wet floors, or poor lighting. And then finally in bedrooms, again, we see clutter or clothes on the floor, if they're not hanging on their treadmill, a very soft bed, not having adequate space to access their bed, low dresser drawers, and closets that require either a high or very low reach to get their items that they need. And then again, that poor lighting.
So it sounds a lot like the home setup can be a real big issue. You know, narrow walkways, risers, things like that. What are maybe some of the things we can do within the home to make some of those things safer, as well as, right now we're safer at home. We don't want them going to Home Depot and doing a whole bunch of shopping. So how can we maybe make it safer and also do it in a way that's not going to break the bank?
Sure. Some of the things that I definitely would consider to make our home safer might include having a therapist come and take a look, maybe doing a home assessment to help identify areas that might be of concern. And if you don't have that available, even asking, a family member or a friend to walk through. Pick a time in a day that they can come through your house and take a look, because oftentimes others might pick up on things that we don't. I feel like we're all creatures of habit and we live in our homes every day, and you don't pick up on some things that maybe we should. There's been many of patients that I've had in the past that might have had something as simple as a torn carpet or an unsteady railing for many, many years. And until somebody actually points it out, they don't notice it at all. Maybe getting assistance with taxing household chores. Some of the big ones there would be, your yard work, vacuuming, and scrubbing. Those are very taxing. It definitely is okay to seek out help. And it's rewarding for that other person too. That's something that we have to remember, is that, if you do ask somebody for help, oftentimes it's rewarding for them to do that. We want to keep walking paths clear of clutter and cords. Using a walker, a cane, or a wheelchair in your home if your balance is compromised. Lifeline, or keeping a cell phone close to you, maybe in your pocket, or having a fanny pack on so it's there at all times, because we all know that if you fall and your cell phone is in your bedroom but you've fallen in your bathroom, it won't do you much good. So we want you to have something on you at all times. And then finally, replacing the batteries of your fire alarms and your carbon monoxide detectors routinely.
You mentioned having somebody come in and do a home visit, like a therapist. Can you, Greenfield Rehab, or anybody do those right now with Safer at Home?
We can. The doctors are really looking at essential care visits, people that might need therapy now versus those that might be able to wait. But falls are really something that would be considered an essential service, because after all, if we would not help somebody and they were falling, it would result in a hospitalization. So by us going in and helping somebody, it not only saves the hospitalization and those risks, but the huge expense too of not having those costs.
Sounds good. And I think, like you said, having different eyes walk through and look at it. I remember somebody telling me once they did a home visit and they had a chair in the middle of the dining room. And somebody's like, why do you have, it's a trip hazard, it's this. And they go, well, fatigue wise, when I go from the kitchen to the living room, I need that chair to sit down so I can take a break to get to the living room. So once in a while, the things that we look at professionally and go, that makes no sense, they may have a reason for it. And I think that's why, like you said, the home visit and having other eyes, it's very good to talk some of that through. We talked about some of maybe the easy things we can do now. What are some of the larger modifications people maybe are considering now and down the road, when Safer at Home is different? We can get contractors in there. We can do maybe some of the bigger things. I think you touched on one earlier, was grab bars versus towel bars. What else would you recommend?
Well, I have kind of a list here, Jeremy, of some of the home modifications with some additional ones with little or no cost. Maybe I'll go through those first for you.
Excellent.
Walking back through that home, some other ideas are in those home entrances. You might be able to use a piece of colored tape on the edge of a step just to give some additional visual input as to where the edge is. Stabilizing those loose railings, and adding non-skid treads to an existing ramp, or even something as simple as removing the spring on your screen door, because sometimes people feel like that might push them over as they're trying to enter and exit the home. In the kitchen and living room areas, some of the other economical things that you can really do are just moving the furniture simply to open up the walking path, like you talked about. Removing all loose scatter rugs about the home, or if it's just something that those rugs are an absolute must to somebody, either tacking them down with rug tape or having a grippy back. You want to repair loose carpet. Oftentimes, we see carpets that might pucker up or lift or that are torn. Maybe there's a way that we can fix those for not real much rather than replacing them. Non-skid wax flooring. Now we have a lot of people that are putting the plank type flooring in their kitchens, and a lot of those floors are pretty slippery. So I would encourage them to use a non-skid wax if you can find it. Asking your oxygen provider for green colored tubing instead of clear so that it's easier to see. There might be no alternative to having that oxygen tubing on the floor, but definitely a colored tube can help you so that you can see it and maneuver around it. There are little reacher tools you may be familiar with that help us pick up things that are on the floor, whether you're sitting or standing. You can use that reacher tool to pick things up. Removing newspapers from the floor, as they often create a slippery surface for falls. You could consider sofa leg risers. Sometimes they're called elephant ears. They're just little risers that you put right underneath the legs of your sofa so that it's taller and easier to get up from. Or simply just putting a cushion on top of your chair or sofa so that the surface height is taller and easier to stand. Using a dining room chair with armrests. Oftentimes people don't need a full set of chairs with armrests, so I may send them to a secondhand store like St. Vinny's or Goodwill and just ask them, see if you can find just one. And that'll help, just having those armrests with being able to get up in the dining room. And moving the microwave to the counter. It's sometimes really a safety hazard when we have to not only reach up to get something out of a microwave, but it's also hot. So, we're often in a hurry. So a lot of times I'll tell people, how about moving the microwave onto the counter? And then finally, in the kitchen area, avoiding step stools. And we can do that by moving all of our regularly used items and dinnerware within easy reach. In the bathrooms, there we can use a non-skid mat or non-skid strips on the shower floor for a low cost. You can check your loan closet for adaptive equipment. Quite often they have a good abundance of toilet frames and risers, shower chairs, reachers, all those things that they'll loan out to you for a number of months, even just to try out or to use just while you need it. And then adding a nightlight. In bedroom areas, I would move a lamp closer to your bed. Here's where those touch lamps are really pretty nice, where you can just tap them on and tap them off. Another big one that I see, especially when I go into assisted living facilities and homes, is the comforter provoking a problem. That bottom corner of somebody's comforter often lies on the floor. So I'll educate many times just to take that corner and tuck it between the mattress and the box spring so that the wheels of a walker per se aren't going to get caught on it. So that's another simple one. Raising the height of your bed so that when you sit at the edge of your bed, that your knees and your hips are at 90 degrees. And that way, hopefully your feet are in contact with the floor. When you have good contact with the floor, your balance will definitely be better too. If you have a very soft mattress in your bedroom, that poses us a risk for sliding off. And I have a couple of tricks that I've learned throughout my years that have been very helpful. Using a blanket and rolling it up the long way, or using a foam swim noodle and putting that between the mattress and the box spring just along the edge. That'll firm up the edge of the bed for you to hopefully prevent you from sliding off. I like to find those swim noodles. I know we're limited right now, but oftentimes you can find those at the dollar store in spring. Moving your clothing in your dressers and your closets so that they're within easy reach. Sometimes that might mean lowering your rod in your closet. And then finally adding a nightlight. A few other tips that would be low cost, just some general things, would be asking, especially right now, about home delivery for your groceries. And maybe asking those clerks to bag your groceries lightly and packing your freezer and your your freezer and cold food together. Installing Lifeline, a cordless phone or a cell phone, as we talked about. And one of the really cool things that I found out in the last year or so is that there are even apps that you can install on your phone where it'll auto detect a fall. So if it's detected that you've fallen, it can automatically contact your loved ones that you have listed to help you out. And then finally, non-skid or rubber shoes. Those are just some low-cost tips that I'd have.
I think that last one's huge because I see a lot of people wear like sandals in the summertime. And if you have risk of fall, sandals aren't great, and usually can be very slippery. I'll throw in 2 tips I've been told by people at support groups, Michelle. One is if you have small pets, put a bell on them, especially at night. Because if you have to get up and use the restroom, you can at least, the bell will give you away where they are. And one of my favorite ones I heard, and this was a number of years ago, was if we keep telling people have those night lights. Well, if you have a night light that's lighting up the wall, turn it upside down so it lights up the walkway. So especially from the bedroom to the bathroom, if you have a pair of shoes are in the way or a bathrobe or something like that, you're more likely to see it when the light is on the floor than when it's lighting up the wall or ceiling, if you will. So 2 little things I've learned from people who have actually done those, and they've swear by them. Well, those are the low cost. What do we have that are maybe more, much bigger projects we want to look at once Safer at Home has been lifted?
Sure. Some of the larger modifications that I would definitely consider down the road might be just repairing your steps, your sidewalk, and your pavement so that they're more even. Installing railings to your home entrance, maybe installing a ramp. And I just want to, sometimes with the ramps, if you can seek out, we know those are a high cost item, but sometimes there are community clubs and organizations that can help with that too. And then installing motion controlled lighting outside so that when you are approaching the home that you do have adequate lighting. In the kitchen and living room areas, I would definitely recommend purchasing a lightweight vacuum that's cordless. So instead of having to hassle with a broom and a dustpan and bending over, or even a vacuum with a cord that you have to bend down and move every time you reach a different area of the home, that cordless vacuum may be just a blessing you've been looking for. Purchasing a solid recliner with armrests that isn't too low. I would try to avoid a rocking recliner and go with something solid with those armrests, but yet that you can still feel comfortable and put up your feet. I would consider the purchase of an electric chairlift for in-home stairs. If those stairs are what's really deterring you from being able to function in your home, that purchase might be what you need to stay living there. Widening doorways that are too narrow for your wheelchair or walker to get through. Removing any long shade type carpet and replacing it with something that's low pile or a smoother surface. And then program your lighting so that you don't have to go underneath a lamp to turn your lights on and off, but maybe just flipping a switch and they all turn on for you. In bathrooms, one of the things that I see people absolutely appreciate the most is when they do take the plunge and install a walk-in shower. Or if that's too costly, I've also had patients just do a simple cutout to their current bathtub, where you have a section cut out, and then you can more easily step over to get in and out. And if you do make those modifications, I'd always look at grab bars in the shower, just so you always have a good contact or something to hold on to. In bedrooms, we have the really nice beds that are out nowadays that, raise and lower. The whole surface of the bed lowers, as well as the head components and the foot components. So that sometimes is worthwhile because it helps ease getting in and out of bed. And then purchasing a cart or maybe a four-wheeled walker for managing our laundry so that we can get from the laundry room to the bedroom by setting that laundry basket on top of the cart instead of trying to carry it. And then the final purchase I have, or I would maybe consider purchasing, would be an electric scooter. And I see people use this not only in their homes when they're extremely fatigued, but mostly for going out and shopping or being able to access their mail.
I think those are great resources. I think when you talk about the ramps, I've had a lot of experience, like you said, with community clubs, churches that'll oftentimes do them. I think the one thing I've always been told, and hopefully you can confirm, you want to make sure you have the right pitch for a ramp. So if you have, let's say your steps are 3 feet high, you're going to want to have a ramp that's 36 feet long because you want 1 inch of rise or 12 inches of rise for every inch of stairway. So it's not too steep, but also not too narrow as well. And then you mentioned loan closets earlier, and I meant to ask you about that. My experience, most loan closets are through like the Aging and Disability Resource Centers. Are there other loan closets you've worked with that you're aware of that you can refer people to?
Definitely. I would I would start with the Aging and Disability Resource Center, because if they don't personally have one, they would probably have the information you need as to where you might find one in the community. I know locally here, in Calumet County, we have one right at the courthouse. And in Plymouth, there's a sharing closet there also that people have had good luck finding the equipment that they need. And that is actually through a local church. So, I think if you look online and do a little research or call the ADRC, they definitely would be able to steer you in the right direction for your local community.
Perfect, thank you. So we've talked about, home modifications we can make, maybe some of the bigger things, the little things we can do. Are there any things beyond just modifying the home that we can do to reduce our fall risk?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I can encourage everybody to do is to stay active. Staying active will help keep our symptoms at bay. And by improving your strength, your balance, and your flexibility in your gait, you can really help maintain your independence and decrease your risk for falls. I would encourage you to get involved in an exercise program. Right now, we know that needs to be at home. So that might be, doing a home exercise program you've already been given, a video, biking on a stationary bike, or just doing some walking. If you don't have a treadmill, just making laps around the house. And for those of you out there that haven't really had an exercise program before, just maybe learning a little bit about energy conservation and pacing tips and starting small. You don't have to start big. Maybe every time a commercial comes on, something as simple as standing up and sitting down a few times, or going for a walk every hour around the house. I would encourage people to join a class. Some of the really good options out there might include, through the Wisconsin Parkinson Association, the dance classes and the exercise classes that we already talked about. The YMCA has great programs like Silver Sneakers, and the ADRC sponsors Strong Bodies exercises at a very, very low cost. Stepping On is a great fall prevention program. And then other things like swimming, yoga, and even Tai Chi are great too. I know in Kiel Community Center, they also have a Tai Chi class, and the gentleman that leads the class does do it in sitting for the Parkinson's folks. So it's a great modification that does definitely help them with their balance, and they can sit while they're doing it. And then, of course, my personal favorite would be the Parkinson's Dance and Music class. With the use of music and movement, we just see a great improvement in somebody's flexibility and their range of motion, their ability to incorporate real big accentuated movements, as well as improving their quality of their steps and their fluidity of movements that we all need for walking.
I think what you demonstrated there, Michelle, is there's a plethora of things you could do. There's not just one exercise. It's whether it's a treadmill, whether it's dance, whether it's yoga, tai chi. You know, nobody can say, well, there's nothing I like. There's so many options. You can find something that'll keep you active, and by being active, it reduces your fall risk.
I think that's a great key point. There's so many options out there.
Absolutely. Anything we haven't touched on that you usually talk about when you talk about fall risk or home modifications that you want to make sure we cover before we finish off?
Yeah, if you've had falls in the past, whether they're in your home or outside of the home, I definitely would always talk to your doctor. You know, when you do talk to your doctor, make a list before you go in, because it'll help you be organized and you'll get the answers you're looking for. Some of the things I would discuss with that doctor are asking the doctor to take a look at your medications. Maybe he or she can see if those might be impacting your balance and your fall risks. Ask your doctor if they think that a cane or walker would help you. And ask your doctor if he or she feels like physical therapy or occupational therapy might be indicated to help you with your posture and your balance, your strength, your walking, and your dressing skills. This can be done either on an outpatient basis, or if your doctor would go ahead and order it as a home care order, then your therapist can not only take a look at those things we just mentioned, but I'm sure they would also take a look at your home safety and setup too, and would be able to make special recommendations specific to your home. I would not mix alcohol with medications, and I'd have your vision and hearing checked regularly. And Jeremy, for any of those people out there that know me from my classes, they know that I do like riddles and jokes and just having some fun to keep our brains stimulated. So personally, I have two final tips that I would like people to consider and a little riddle that goes with each.
Excellent.
The riddles were brought to me by a husband and wife that attended one of my Strong Bodies classes in Oshkosh. And they found the jokes in their 2019 edition of the American Legion magazine. So tip number one for me is don't climb ladders. And here's the riddle. An old woman went to her doctor and said, "Do you remember when you told me to avoid going up and down the stairs as much as possible?" "Yes," the doctor nodded. "We agreed on that after your last set of x-rays." "Well," she said, "I don't know if it was such a great recommendation. All the climbing up and down my rain gutters are getting exhausting." And the second tip that I have is to maintain a healthy diet. "I just burned 2,000 calories. Whew, that's the last time I leave brownies in the oven while I nap."
A great way to end it, Michelle. That's very good. Great tips for everybody. I want to just thank you, Michelle, for your time today and providing information, making our homes safer and reducing our fall risk while social distancing. Please check in with Wisconsin Parkinson Association frequently. We are regularly updating our website and Facebook page with exercise classes, educational videos such as this one, and a number of other resources for you to stay safer at home. You can email us at mail@wiparkinson.org with future topics you would like to see covered by our local experts. Now, hopefully you are finding these educational video series beneficial. WPA relies on donations from individuals just like you. Please consider a gift today at wiparkinson.org to continue to keep all WPA programs and services free now and in the future. Thanks again to Michelle for being our guest today. Thanks to you for joining us. Please take care.